Hello, and welcome to PeachFuzz, presented by Lakepoint Sports and Prep Baseball Georgia. I'm Grayson Rosen. I'm joined by Prep Baseball Georgia Scouting Director Hudson Graham and Prep Baseball Georgia Assistant Scouting Director Ian Smith. Right now, we're in the midst of Week 8 of high school baseball, coming to an end at the end of this week. We've got about 2.5 weeks from the beginning of the state playoffs and the spring break experience coming to a close here at Lakepoint. Battle for Bartow starting right up here at Lakepoint as well over at Cartersville High School. So we've got a lot going on. How are you guys feeling going into the end of Week 8?
Yeah, it's been exciting. Guys are starting to separate themselves. We had a couple big region matchups on Monday that I was at, Cherokee Bluff, North Hall. So there's some big-time matchups taking place. Guys are starting to separate themselves at the top of the region. Guys are fighting for those top 4 region spots and then also those seeds for the playoffs. So been really exciting. This battle for Bartow kind of break things up a bit. We'll get to see some cool matchups and not so high pressure games, but also guys wanting to win. So I know Ian's been all over the place. He got to see some good stuff last week. So getting excited to kind of push in the last couple weeks and get into the playoffs.
Awesome. And for you, Ian?
Yeah, it's been good, man. I was out here a lot this week for the spring break experience, seeing a really loaded team in Moeller from Ohio, and I was also just got out last week to see a few games as well. And I'm just excited to see this battle at Bartow this week. We got a really huge matchup in Hudson County and Cartersville, which are two of the big teams in 6A and 5A. So that could be a huge matchup that can bring out a lot of people tonight. So that's exciting to see, and it's gonna be a big one.
Awesome. Well, we've got a couple of things to hit today. We're going to talk a little bit about Week 7's Power 25, a little bit of movement there near the top, and then Battle for Bartow, of course. We're going to talk about some midseason standouts for these guys. They're going to be putting out an article soon of all of their midseason standouts. We'll be hitting a couple per class today, and then, of course, talking about some of the games they got the chance to see, and then talking about what's going on this weekend and going forward. So if you guys are ready to go, let's get into Week 7 Power 25.
Yep.
It starts off with Lowndes. They dropped 2 spots with 2 losses last week. Each of them 1-run losses, one to Jeff Davis and one to the number 10 in the Prep Baseball National Top 50, Trinity Christian from Jacksonville. How hard is it on you guys to determine what happens to a team like Lowndes when they put up a great fight against top teams in the nation?
It's tough. It's really tough. More so them dropping was more so North Cobb Christian going down to IMG and taking care of business. Ian can touch on that, on them. But I think for them, a 1-run loss twice to Trinity Christian, who has like 7 Power 5 commits with a littered lineup of really top guys. I think that goes into account a ton. Matthew Kerrigan had a huge outing against them in that second Trinity Christian game, and I know Noah Thigpen had a good one in the first one. So they can compete with a nationally ranked top 10 team. So they're not too far behind them. Obviously, 1-run games like that can go either way. So it's definitely tough for us to take those losses into account, which we definitely do. But more so was the guys coming up above them rather than them dropping, especially with those quality losses against Trinity Christian.
Definitely. And Ian, anything that you could add to about how well Lowndes put up a fight, but they still drop?
I mean, it's good to see them. I mean, like, this is the second time they've had a 1-run loss to Trinity Christian. This is a team that they know well. It's going to play them well every time they see them. Lowndes is a team that knows how to beat good teams, and to being competing against teams like Trinity Christian is impressive to see. They went in and took care of business this week in some region games, and it's good to see them get back on the winning horse. And they'll be a team to watch, and 7A, they're a team that we all watch throughout the playoffs always.
Awesome. Well, Hudson touched on North Cobb Christian. They actually moved all the way up to number 3 from 6, despite the 8-1 loss to number 4 in the Prep Baseball National Top 25 IMG Academy. They get 3 wins over Landon, Spanish Fort, and Highland, respectively. Does the process change when you guys are deciding the rankings for teams that are playing out-of-state schools?
So what we do on that is, I reached out to both the Alabama and the Maryland, Virginia guys. Both those teams that they beat, Spanish Fort's like number 9 and like 6A, I believe, for Alabama. So and then Maryland, the Highlands was also ranked in our Prep Baseball Maryland rankings as well. So that's one thing we do. We reach out to those guys, see what kind of quality team they are, and then we kind of judge everything off of that.
Gotcha.
So I know Ian's got to see North Cobb Christian and an 8-1 loss to IMG. one of the top teams in the nation. So they can compete. They did have Sabom, right, went out with a lightning delay. So they had their best arm going against them, and they hit a lightning delay, and then he wasn't able to come back out. So that would have been awesome to see Sabom go toe-to-toe with, a top 3 team in the nation. But unfortunately, weather wasn't on his side. But, yeah, Ian can touch on kind of what North Cobb's about, what their players are doing, and everything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, North Carolina Christian's a team I mentioned last week is a team that I say could compete with 4A and 5A teams in Georgia. And now you're seeing it with them competing against teams from the 6A region and other states. They're winning against quality teams. Like Hudson mentioned, losing Sabom after only an inning against IMG was tough to see. And with that team so loaded on the offensive side, to lose their top pitchers is tough to see against a guy like Noah Franco, who was pitching for IMG in that matchup, was one of the top left-handed arms in the 2024 class. So North Cobb Christian has a deep lineup, like I've mentioned. Mullinex at the top. You have Sabom, who's also a big bat and DH for them as well. You have freshman bats batting huge for them, sophomore bats as well. And I think North Cobb Christian is a team that you can see going deep into the playoffs this year with a chance to win a state title.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about the biggest move of the week. A huge jump for North Gwinnett. They jump all the way up to 6 from 13. They now find themselves 17-3. What's the biggest factor in their big jump here?
So then, being a 7A team, we knew they were going to be in it at the beginning. They kind of got off to a little bit of a shaky start, but now they're taking care of business in the toughest classification in Georgia. So they obviously got the big bump, with Parkview and Lowndes dropping a couple. We needed to go ahead and get them up there to just they're being competitive with their record with those top guys now. Obviously, Parkview and Lowndes, their losses are a bit more competitive than North Gwinnett's are. So that was the big bump for them, being in 7A, taking care of teams that they should take care of. And so we should see them even continue to climb as they continue region play.
Gotcha. And then we also have a pretty big matchup here for the rankings going into next week. Cherokee Bluff, they find themselves down 2 spots to 7 after 2 straight losses to East Forsyth, but they get wins in the first 2 games of the series against North Hall. They've got a chance to go right back up in the rankings into Week 9.
Yeah, so I definitely wanted to touch on them, getting to see them Monday night since it's fresh. And this team can hit. It's a lineup that's obviously had a bit of a shaky series against East Forsyth. I know they faced some quality arms, and they got the game 1 and then dropped the next 2. So they were eager to get back in the win column. They were down 2-0 all game. North Hall had 2 solo shots in back-to-back innings, but Tucker Holton kind of stayed composed and kept them in it. And Caleb Meal came up with a big swing to right field to take the lead 3-2. And then last night he had a grand slam. They were down early as well, and then next thing you know, they're up 5-3. So I think that Coach Kemp mentioned that they had a senior talk to the team and I guess got them on the right foot, and now they're back rolling. They have a big series against Chestatee coming up. They really need to sweep them in order to get back in that top spot. So that'll be a big series for them. North Hall, obviously this game 3 could be really big as well. So North Hall is going to be scratching for this 3rd win to try to salvage the sweep. Obviously being at the top of that region and Bluff fighting for it. So we're be interesting to see how that region shakes out. But just to touch on a little bit more about Bluff, their lineup is littered with top talented seniors with Bubba Coleman, LSU commit, Georgia Southern commit, KT Thompson. I told a couple guys that he kind of had a sneaky MVP of the game on Monday night. He had a single in the first, didn't get around to score, and then in the inning where they ended up tying it, he had a leadoff bunt that kind of came out of nowhere, laid it down, easy bunt single, and then ended up coming around to score one of the tying runs. And then in the top of the 7th, they got the leadoff guy on, leadoff walk. Kenny Fowdy threw the guy out at second base, so obviously big momentum shift, but then he ends up taking the 6-7 pitch at bat into a walk and ends up coming around to score the winning run. So big night for him. I know he had a home run last night as well. So, but yeah, this lineup can hit. I think their pitching's been not as consistent as Coach Kemp was hoping for, but Tucker Holton had a big outing that should get him on the right track as they make this region playoff push.
Awesome. Well, why don't we go ahead and talk about Battle for Bartow? It's a big deal here. Some valuable games for a lot of these teams because we're rolling into kind of the final series. They've got this and then maybe 1 or 2 series after this before we're trying to decide regions. So the teams we've got playing, we've got Whitewater, Jefferson, Alexander, Woodland, Carrollton, Locust Grove, Union Grove, Newton County, McIntosh, Cartersville, Houston from Tennessee, and then Houston County, Calhoun, Etowah, and Cedartown. There's a lot of great teams here. What are a couple of these teams you're really looking for going into this weekend?
Yeah, starting off, I think I'm excited to see Jefferson for the first game on 1 o'clock slot. I think Easton Simpson should be throwing for them as well. That's their big arm, 2025, one of the top arms in our class, committed to Clemson, up to 92 this spring. We saw him have a great outing at GHC. He's coming off a rough outing last week, and he's looking to bounce back. And I think that's somebody that we really locked in on that game. I think the 1 o'clock matchup as well with Cartersville and McIntosh is huge. We have some pretty big 2024 prospects in that game, featuring Chase Freilich from McIntosh and Caleb Daniel, Aiden Larkin, tons of names for Cartersville as well. That's a huge one. Another 1 o'clock matchup. We'll see Etowah as well today at 4 o'clock. It's just a deep lineup. I think Hudson's got some teams he wants to touch on as well, but it's been good to see these teams loaded to be here. We'll see. One more before I let Hudson take over is Alexander. It's a team we haven't seen very much since GDC. They're getting Terrence Bowman back, one of the top shortstops in the 2025 class. He's playing basketball, went all the way to the state championship, so it's good to see him. Probably not after a few weeks with his timing back. It should be a big weekend for him as well.
Yeah, there's definitely a few teams on the list that we're definitely excited to see. Some of these guys were at Georgia Dugout Club, and then we're getting a chance to see them again. Newton coming off of a big win versus Parkview. They got a couple guys we're hearing about, so I want to be sure to get a good look at them. And then obviously the Houston versus Cartersville matchup is huge. Obviously kind of the highlight game of the week. And then Cedartown, we'll get to see Cedartown not having the best season, but definitely got some sophomores we want to look at with Ace Allen. We got to see him a little bit earlier in the year, but want to be able to see him a little bit. Carrollton's got a sophomore, Caleb Binion, that had a really big Georgia Dugout Club, so want to follow up with him. But yeah, really good teams. Coach Tucker at Cartersville did a great job putting this together. We're lucky enough to be able to cover it. Etowah we haven't seen in a little bit, so be good to see them against a quality arm. And Eston, I think he's got a couple innings against them today. So really excited to get out there and watch these games today and tomorrow at Lakepoint.
Yeah, it's going to be super fun matchups to watch. We've got games on Thursday and Friday. Thursday, we've got games going at 1 p.m., 4 p.m., and 7 p.m. Friday moves them up an hour, 12 p.m., 3 p.m., 6 p.m. What are the best matchups on Thursday and Friday?
So today, I would say Jefferson versus Alexander, with Eston throwing against them. We'll get kind of see him against one of the better lineups in the state. And then obviously that 7 o'clock primetime slot, I guess you could say, with Cartersville and Houston. Can't miss game. This game's going to be packed out. Cartersville obviously travels well right down the road. Houston County, I know they're going to be up here. So I know that Logan went down there to see them against Tift, and he could barely even get into the net to get some videos. So they're going to have this place packed out. They're always exciting. So really, really exciting matchup. I know Ian sent me over the rotation for Cartersville against Houston today, and it's all their guys, Purdy, Ryan Johnson,
Nate Russell as well.
Nate Russell. So there's going to be good arms, good bats. We'll get to see where Houston stacks up. Obviously, these games are tough because they're rolling into region play and they got to get region business taken care of. But still, like obviously, Coach Tucker and Coach Hopkins, they want to battle it out and have a really good ball game for everybody to watch.
Definitely. So we've got tons of games going on. Make sure you guys come check those out. Obviously, you'll be hearing this on Friday morning, so make sure to get out to some of those games on Friday. We've got great matchups Thursday and Friday. So that's it for Battle for Bartow. Let's talk about midseason standouts. You guys are kind of putting together your lists now. Going to be putting out an article on Prep Baseball Georgia's website, which will have the link in the description on the video. But today we're going to go for two players from each class that have stood out thus far. We're going to start with the freshmen. Ian, I'd like to start with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an exciting season for the freshman class. There's two guys that I really want to mention today. We're going to start off with Caden Dawson from Blessed Trinity. It's an outfielder who's getting everyday reps for them. He's really turned into leader in the dugout for them as early on as a freshman. He's just 15 years old. It's one of the better left-handed swings you'll see in this class, whether it's in the state of Georgia or nationally. He's going to hit for power. There's a ton of bat speed. He has an advanced approach. He looks for his pitch consistently in every at-bat, and he plays a really strong right field and could be an impact center fielder at the next level with good foot speed and plenty of arm strength. And another guy I've mentioned on this podcast, on the stream many times this year is Hayes McGinnis, second baseman, right-handed pitcher from Noonan. It's a guy who does a little bit of everything for this ball club. It's a very senior-led ball club, and he fits in just as well as anyone. He bats leadoff for this team. He gets on base every which way, whether it's hitting, whether it's walks, hit by pitch, bunts. He runs, he steals bases, he continues to be a leader for this team. And when he hops on the mound, it's already up to the mid 80s with a really good breaking ball, and he mixes in a quality changeup as well. It's a guy whose upside we really have no idea what it can be, but the ceiling is already extremely high. I mean, the floor is already extremely high for McGinnis, and it's something we're really going to be looking forward for the next couple of years.
Fantastic. And Hudson, what about yourself? Who's really sticking out in the freshman class?
I'll start out with Isaiah Gallison at Hudson County, who'll be up here today. I'll finally be able to get to see him in person, but Logan's been down there watching him a little bit, and I know him pretty well, so I've been keeping tabs on him. But I think a freshman year like that at Hudson County, where they had some pieces leave from their state championship team a year ago, and he's stepped up and earned a starting job for them. So he's been big for them in the at second base and in the lineup. I'm not sure where exactly he's been hitting at, but he's one of those freshmen similar to Hayes, to where like he's going to be one of our top guys for the years to come. He's got a brother playing in college, so good genes there. And then my second one will go with Lee Holt over at Kings Ridge. So Lee's been one that we've seen at preseason that had a really big BP round and one of the top backstops in the 27 class, but he's also been throwing a lot for him. He's getting some starts on the mound. He's already into the mid-80s. I believe he's touched 87, 88 once or twice. So that's cool to see. You don't see a ton of those pitcher-catcher combos like that, but he's super young. He's starting to mature. So we'll definitely get to see him a good bit over at Kings Ridge. I know he's gotten in the lineup a lot more here recently. So he's definitely one that will be fun to watch for the next couple years.
Awesome. And just so everybody knows, that freshman class, that's the class of 2027. So we've got some few more years to keep watching these guys light it up on the diamond. But let's talk about the sophomores. There a lot of them a year into their high school career, maybe some of them just getting onto varsity. Ian, who are the guys that are really sticking out to you in the sophomore class?
Yeah, I'm going to jump off with a guy we really love here at Prep Baseball Georgia. This guy's been huge for us at a bunch of showcases. He stood out every time we've seen him in person. That's Gino Gorowski, the outfielder for Denmark. He's a guy who's moved over to center field in his sophomore year, playing every day. He's batting third in the lineup. He's their guy. He's their guy they're looking for to make the big play, get the big at bat. He gets on base any which way. He's kind of got some lofty expectations for himself this sophomore year, and he's living up to them each and every way. He has a high makeup. The work ethic is huge for him. He understands what he needs to do to be good, and I think the upside for Gorowski is huge, and it's somebody that we just can't get enough of seeing this year. And the second guy for me is a guy I mentioned last week as my player of the week, and that's Colin White. He's turned into the number one for this Harrison team, who's really overachieved, I would say, in this spring. They're up to, I think, 16, 17 wins already this spring after just having 9. He's just a sophomore. Like we're talking about 2026 class here. He's up to 91 with extremely good breaking ball. He's turned it up to 77, 79 with a ton of spin. He fills up the strike zone now when he's on. The command has always been an issue for White. When he's throwing strikes, it's probably the best stuff in the country, but command's always been an issue, and now we're seeing quality start after quality start for White, and now it's really turning into a big-time arm who's starting to put it all together.
Awesome. And Hudson, what about yourself? Who really sticks out for the class of 2026?
These 26s, honestly, it's probably one of my favorite classes that I've been able to have. The 25s, I got to start out with the Junior Future Games. So both the 25s and 26s are kind of my two classes that I've got to know the most. But it was actually kind of tough to decide on these two. I've seen a lot of 26s. Kings Ridge has a couple, and Chip Glagorski, and then obviously Gino. Ian snagged him. I saw him do really well against Lambert. But I'll actually stick with Denmark and go with Jason Williams. That's kind of the 1-2 punch for Denmark. In a couple years' time, they're probably going to be competing for a state championship. But Jason's been the same as Gino. He's been performing, batting over 400 on the year, playing a good second base, shortstop. So he's been a steady performer. At this point, for some of these sophomores, it's all about production. I think that production matters. I think that it's time for them to start putting up big numbers. Most of them played as a freshman, so now it's kind of their time to kind of separate themselves from certain guys. And then number 2 will actually go Maverick Chitwood. I got to see last week for Habersham Central. Couple hits at the plate against a really good North Forsyth arm. So he's one that he was a Junior Future Games guy back a couple years, but just super athletic, plays 3 sports. Can hit from the left side, can pitch from the left side. Obviously, the arm's still developing a little bit on the mound, but the barrel's there, the swing's there, and it can play towards the top of this sophomore class.
Fantastic. Yeah, this sophomore class is loaded for the state of Georgia. It seems like maybe the first class in a little while where we're going to see a lot of draft talent coming out of the state of Georgia.
Yeah, I think the arms. I think we're gonna have definitely some arms that continue to pop up. Matthew Sharman, Connor Langdon, Colin White. So it's been definitely going to be cool to see, how it plays out over the next couple years. And then obviously Keon and Dion at the top. They're two of the premier position guys in the class. But the list goes on and on. Gino's kind of making a name for himself. You got Wesley Robertson coming up as well for Glen Academy. So we're definitely excited to pick this future games team for these guys. I think we're gonna be able to
have some fun with it.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure. And let's talk about the juniors, the 2025 class. Ian, who are the two guys that stand out?
I think this 2025 class has really stood out for me as a whole this year, this spring in particular. There's been a bunch of guys who have really made a name for themselves as like some of the top guys in the class, really shooting themselves up the board. And we're going to start at the top with one of the top shortstops in Josh Gibbs. He's a guy who just continues to hit. It's one of the twitchiest players in the 2025 class. He's a shortstop for Forsyth Central, committed to Georgia. About 6 foot, 180 pounds, but hits for a lot more power than the body shows for. He syncs up extremely well at the plate from the right side. There's a ton of moving parts, but he's always on time, knows how to find the barrel, uses the whole field, plays a really good shortstop as well. He even hops on the mound for Forsyth Central as well, up to 92, with a ton of arm speed, really good breaking ball. Kind of just does it all for this team. He's a big leader for this team's club. It's obviously a thing I look for, as I mentioned, with a lot of guys. You love the makeup with Gibbs, and he continues to produce every time you see him, whether it's in the field or at the plate. And another guy I mentioned all the time, one of my favorite players in the class, and that's Reed Worley, right-handed pitcher from Cherokee. He's just a guy who continues to stack up good outings. This stuff continues to improve. He spins it as well as anybody in the class, up to 3,000 on the breaking ball. His fastball's been up to 93 this spring. He's living in the low 90s, hitting 89, 91 mostly every start. The changeup's really good as well, knows how to throw it to both sides of the plate. And I think that's a guy whose ceiling is just about as high as anybody's you're going to look at in the state pitching-wise. He's going to make huge moves on the next time we update the board, and I think that's a guy that I just can't get enough of watching, and I think has a huge matchup in the next coming week with Walden. And you'll see him against a really good arm from the 2024 class in Dane Walden. I think that's a good matchup to really gauge where Worley is in his development.
Definitely. Love what you had to say there. Hudson, what about yourself? Who's really sticking out for the juniors?
I'll start it off with Trey Farr from East Forsyth. Georgia Dugout Club, he actually put a ball on top of this building that we're sitting on right now. He kind of had a really, really big weekend there, and he's kind of earned a big follow since then. But got to see him on the mound against North Hall through a really good game, left-handed arm. Mid-80s, he'll climb up into 86, 87. He actually threw that first game against Cherokee Bluff. That Bluff ended up winning, but didn't have his best stuff. But he actually bounced back and ended up throwing game 3 and help him get the win there. I think he's batting near 300 on the year. So he's definitely one that it's been fun to see him develop. It's always nice seeing pop-up guys like that. He was on a heavy Divine squad that had been out here all summer, but just kind of blended in the lineup. But now he's starting to stand out at the plate and on the mound. And then number 2 will go Sanford Halcomb, North Gwinnett. We talked about North Gwinnett rising, and he's been a big piece for them. He's batting right at 400 on the year. He's been a preseason guy. He's been at quite a few events. He actually has a little brother coming up, a 2028 that we got to see. So quarterback that kind of transitioned into a wide receiver at North Gwinnett. So love athletic guys like that, and he's definitely one that he's on the future games watch list, if we want to call it that. Both him and Farr. So really excited to see them more. North Gwinnett, we'll get out to see them in the next couple weeks. But yeah, good stuff there.
All right, well, let's talk about the seniors, the class of 2024. These guys have spent this entire year making their case or, have already found their commitments, found where they're going. Ian, let's start with you. Who's really stuck out?
Yeah, this 2024 class is one I really love to follow as a guy who really follows the MLB draft and the prospects in that region. And there's a guy who really stood out for me, whether it was last fall and then going into the spring. I mentioned him on the stream. I mentioned him in writing. I mentioned him a lot, but he continues to produce, and I'll be going to see him as soon as we get off this recording here today, and that's Caleb Daniel, the outfielder from Cartersville. He's batting third in the lineup, probably the best bat they've seen in the last few years. He's a left-handed hitter, continues to produce. It's all fields power. I've seen him hit some of the most prestigious home runs I've seen this spring. He hits in big spots. He knows how to find his zone. He knows how to hit against velocity. He knows how to hit against spin. And he plays a really good center field as well. A guy who's known for his catching ability. He's committed to Georgia as a catcher. Now he's the everyday center fielder for this Cartersville team, who's one of the best teams in 5A. He's got a ton of range moving laterally, and he has sneaky foot speed and athleticism for a guy who isn't known for that regularly. And that's a guy who just continues to stand out. He's starting to earn some pro recognition as well. I have some guys going out to see him as well today. So he's a guy who just continues to stand out for me. And another one I mentioned made a huge jump this spring, whether it's velocity and stuff, and that's Charlie Foster, left-handed pitcher from Brookwood. He's been one of the best arms in the state this year. We mentioned Brookwood a lot as one of the best staffs in possibly the country, and Foster's been right in the middle of that. Another Georgia commit. He's got 63 strikeouts to just 16 walks this year in just 34 innings. He has a really good fastball that's gained about 6 miles an hour on velocity since the last 6 months. Throws a really good breaking ball with a really clean arm action. It's what you look for in a left-handed starting pitcher. It's a really good body at 6'3", 210, continues to get more physical, and knows how to fill up the strike zone. He garners a ton of pro outings pro scouts every time he throws, and it's somebody who's going to be huge going into the playoffs for this Brookwood team.
Fantastic. And Hudson, what do you have to add for your guys in the senior class?
John Reed over at North Hall has been kind of been my go-to guy that for these seniors that I've been reaching out to a handful of coaches on. Not sure how he's still uncommitted, but he is. We've had some guys out there watching him over the last couple weeks. He stands out at shortstop. It's like ideal shortstop frame, 6'1", like 180 pounds. One of the guys that went to watch him said he had the best in and out that he had seen in quite some time in the infield. So that's obviously his thing. I haven't seen a ball get by him. Got to see him last year and this year. And then at the plate, he's batting near 400, and just getting on base and producing towards the top of the lineup for the Trojan. So he's definitely one that I think needs to come off the board pretty soon. Just can obviously play shortstop, but could really help any team both in the field and in the lineup. And then number 2, we'll go Damian Brown. Closed the game for Buford, another uncommitted guy. Trying to give some uncommitted guys some love here, but he's up to 90, upper 80s. Came in, shut it down pretty quick. We're gonna try to get out to see a start from him pretty soon. But just wipeout slider, 3,000 spin, just really good arm. Natural arm talent with some added strength and size. He could be a low 90s guy pretty quickly. So we'll definitely see him off the board soon. I think here there was a Division I program out there watching him the other day. So definitely one that we want to see get a full start, get to see some more innings. I only got to see like 7 pitches, but luckily I got to see him last year at the Battle for Bartow. So definitely want to see him get off the board soon. But that's two of my senior guys.
Fantastic. So that sums it up for now. Of course, they're going to be releasing that full article. Do you guys have a date in mind on that one?
We'll try to get that out first of next week. Okay. We'll try to get all this Battle for Bartow stuff squared away maybe Sunday, early Monday, and then we'll shoot for like Tuesday, Wednesday probably for that article. Gotcha. We'll get in our guys that we just mentioned, and then we'll also add probably 3 or so apiece to get to 5 for each class. We might break it up by class, but keep an eye on that. We'll definitely be releasing that here soon.
Fantastic. Well, look out for that on the Prep Baseball Georgia website, and make sure you're following them on social media, and of course you'll see it there. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the games you guys have gotten to attend this week. Ian, we'll start with you. Any guys, any teams, anything you saw this past week that really caught your eye?
Yeah, I wanted to get out last week and see one of our top two-way guys in the 2024 class, in Alex Hernandez for Forsyth Central, team I mentioned earlier, and he produced like I wanted to. Like you always want to see, a 5-inning complete game shutout. They run-ruled Denmark in a really good showing. He helped himself at the plate as well with RBI double, showing really good bat speed and ability to match plane on a smoked ball into the gap. But on the mound is where I really think the upside can be just as high with Hernandez. He was up to 92 this outing. Breaking ball is extremely powerful with a power curveball at 79, 81. He buries it to left-handed hitters and right-handed hitters. He gets a ton of swing and miss on the pitch, and he throws a really power changeup as well at 85, 87. That's a little bit firm, but he gets a ton of arm side fade that just is pretty much unhittable as left-handed hitters, and he can throw it in any count that he wants. And it looked great against his lineup that's really shown out against good pitching all year long in Denmark with guys we've mentioned today, and Gino Gorowski, Jason Williams. Aiden Boileau came back in this game. They have Stephen Clark as well. a really good lineup, and he diced them up for 5 quick innings, and it was really impressive to see. Another game I want to mention before I pass it over to Hudson is I went and seen Dacula in Mill Creek. It was my first time seeing Dacula this spring. Reese Durham is a guy we're extremely high on, a former future gamer who just continues to produce and mature in his frame as well. He's about 6'1", 180 now, and it's a lot bigger than what we saw him last summer. He's hitting for power, and he's showing an extremely good run tool. He flashed a 4.10 on a bunt single in the game, and he got a couple barrels by playing a really good shortstop as well. That's a guy who I think has extremely high upside as an uncommitted player in the 2026 class. He'll be on the future game short list again this spring. Could be a back-to-back player, and he just continues to produce and looks like a guy that can really stand out in this class, in that 2026 class. And mentioning a little bit from Mill Creek, Daniel Pierce, Georgia commit. Mentioned a ton of Georgia commits today, but that's a 2025 shortstop, leader on that ball club offensively and defensively. Really good synced up swing from the right side at the plate. Can find barrels to left and right field with ease. Caught a really good barrel to right center field. To left center field in the ball game, and that would have left most of the ball clubs or most of the fields in this Georgia area about 375 to left center field. He hits for power. He hits for average. It's a really good, it's a really good frame at 6'1", 180, and he plays a really good shortstop as well. It's about as clean as it gets playing defensively. He moves well, moving left and right. Glove transfers are soft. It's really good. The arm strength is there, and I think he's the guy who continues to push up at the top of the list. He's number 4 in the 2025 class, and he has a top player in the class type of upside. Excuse me.
Gotcha. And Hudson, what games have you been able to see?
So I started out, made my way to Redan versus Callaway, a big region matchup with region kind of first place for the region on the line. But on my way there, I actually pulled off to Chambly to see Cooper Lewis, an uncommitted 25, left-handed guy that we got to see at a scout day during the fall. But he was up to 90, kind of just popped in for an inning or two. And he was kind of making quick work of the lineup he was facing. So, but then made my way on down to Redan Callaway. Redan ended up taking that game. Colin Brightwell had a big barrel to pretty much for the win. Drove in 2 runs that ended up being the winning runs. But that was a good matchup. And then Monday we were over at Cherokee Bluff versus North Hall, which was one of the best games I've seen all year. North Hall, Corbin Sosby had a solo shot, and then the following inning Micah Jimerson had another no doubt, probably 380-foot bomb as well. So the place was really packed out, really electric playoff type atmosphere. I mentioned Tucker Holton stayed composed, back-to-back solo shots. That game can easily unravel on a pitcher like that, but he kept them in it. He knows he had a lineup that could score 2 runs pretty quickly, and they ended up doing that. Caleb Meal came up with a big knock. Bubba Coleman had a hit. Landon Kemp had the game tying hit, which is a 25 that we're definitely super high on. He had a big hit there to tie the game, and then Caleb Meal came through with the go-ahead to make it 3-2. And then North Hall didn't give up there. Bottom of the 7th, Micah Jimerson had another ball. He roped down the line. And then A.J. Jones, Kennesaw State commit, had a barrel. So they had first and second with the top of their order up right where they wanted to be. But unfortunately, Luke Sanders flew out to right field to end the game. So they'll look to get that game 3 against them. But, yeah, really good game there, one that we had on the list from the beginning. We knew that was going to have region-type playoff implications on it. So, yeah, kind of wrap that up and then getting ready to cover these Battle for Bartow games.
Fantastic. So, speaking of the Battle of Bartow games, of course, you guys are going to be at those games. Any games outside of those that we're looking at kind of early next week that you could be attending?
Ian's actually going to burn the roads up today. Obviously, this will come out on Friday, so he's actually gonna peel off halfway through the day here and go see some stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'll be leaving a little bit early from the 4:00 slot to go see Marist and Hillgrove today. At Hillgrove, we're going to see a big 2025 arm in Jamie Weissens, Georgia Tech commit, who's really been exploding this spring. We've mentioned him on here as well. He's had a ton of pro interest already. Looking guy who's going to make some waves this summer, and he's been a huge guy in the 2025 class. And then later on this week, this Saturday, I'll be going to see our number 1 player in the 2026 class, in Keon Johnson. They'll be making their way up from Macon, playing at Flowery Branch over in Gainesville. So that'll be a game I'll be attending as well. Good to see Flowery Branch and First Presbyterian Day for the first time this spring.
Fantastic. So lots of baseball to go watch right now. We're kind of heating up the look into the state playoffs. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on around Lakepoint. We've got Prep Baseball Georgia Major Elite starting up this weekend, Friday through Sunday. Bracket play starting up Saturday night. And then the week after, Battle at Lakepoint. We got a big 18-team field for 14U. That one as well, Friday through Sunday. Any Prep Baseball things we need to address today?
So top prospect games, underclass especially, is selling out. We've actually had to close it off for catchers and middle infielders. So we're up over 100 kids for that. It's our top summer event. We pick majority of the Future Games team from that event. I think 13 guys came from it last year. So over half of the guys we're picking from this event. Be sure to get in there, get signed up. Outfielders, third base, pitchers. We need arms. If we can get some more arms in there, we have 2 days. It's going to be a 2-day event. So we're going to have a showcase on June 4th and then gameplay on June 5th. So as long as we get some more arms, we can open it back up and get some more guys in there, just because we will be utilizing the 4 fields here at Lakepoint. So don't miss that event. Get in there, get signed up, reach out if you got any questions on it. And then the upper class event for that top prospect games will be on June 11th. So really unique time of year. For this one, we'll pick the 17U Future Games team pretty much solely from this event. We've reached out to most of the 25s that we've seen this year to try to get them there so we can see them in a showcase setting and then a gameplay setting. So we'll be picking the Future Games team from that event. Don't miss the chance to be on the first ever 17U Future Games team. So yeah, those are the 2 big ones for us. I know we mentioned the May 29th we'll have the Lakepoint Rising Stars and the Lakepoint Summer Open. So haven't been to a showcase, younger guy, want to attend your first showcase, be sure to get out to that one. And all that can be found on the Prep Baseball Georgia website.
Fantastic.
I want to double down real quick on the top prospect games for the underclass. We had 43 of our top 100 top players in the 2026 class come to our preseason All-State, and we want to see that number beaten this time. I would love to see 50 of our top 100 guys be there, and I think that's possible. You want to compete against the best players in the class, and this is the best chance to do it. Whether it's not on the travel ball circuit, you're competing side by side with the best players in the class, your peers, your friends, teams you're playing against all year. So it's a good time to see the best competition. So please come out to that.
Yeah, heavily scouted event too. Other than the Future Games, we always have our biggest coaches turn out there. Yeah. Typically, all the Division I's in Georgia are there. They're always reaching out on guys daily. We actually ran into a couple of them out at games this week. Yep. Actually, we saw 4 of the 6 Division I's out at games. So they're obviously recruiting in state. They're going to be at the top prospect games. We're going to get out of state guys there as well. So definitely we'll see 20+ coaches there, maybe even more. So definitely get out to both of those as they are our premier summer events leading to Future Games.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, there's a ton of stuff going on this summer, ton of stuff going on this weekend for that matter, but we've got a lot of baseball to talk about, a lot of baseball to watch. So we'll be back next week. I think this will do it for today. And thank you guys for joining me, and thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you guys later.
Yes, sir.
All right.